Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world. We are going to have a great show for you today. We got to get busy early because I have a video that's a little bit longer than normal. So without further ado, let me jump to the studio. Buenos dias, el estudio, los genios.
And good morning to Vancouver. Why the heck not?
Why the heck not?
Why the heck?
Yeah, it's about a minute after 6 o'clock here, Tuesday, May the 13th at the radio, and we have a really great show for you. And Jack has a dang near full page of wisdom, so let's go ahead and get wise.
All right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
I'm going to do your bit on the corporate lies. Grinches. Corporations care about America? I think not. The corporate entity is the most corrupt force imaginable. It is, in its current form, corporate leaders have conspired to corrupt politicians by corrupting the Supreme Court justices. How else can they hand down decisions in favor of the corporations like they do? Like the decisions that allowed corporate personhood and money is free speech. These decisions amount to legalized bribery of government officials. You know, your senators and your representatives that are now conspiring to end social services and put the hurt on everyday working class people.
Well, they do have the most corrupt president in history right now.
Yeah, they got him in there, man, again.
Yeah, accepting a plane from Qatar.
Oh, God.
$400 million. And Hillary Clinton was not even allowed to keep a necklace worth $400. Well, where is it? The crime family is in the White House.
I keep thinking that this has to be a bait and switch. Do something so ridiculously out of scope so that we don't look at something else that's happening. Because I don't see how. Check this out. Think about it. The plane for the president has to have special decoys on it. In other words, if missiles are coming, it has to have special decoys. It has to have places to put I forgot what they call the beast. All these things that have to be done specially to that plane that's going to be for the president. I don't know why they think that. I mean, it just doesn't make fiscal sense. It doesn't make ethical sense. I think that is so that we spend a whole lot of time talking about that and not talking about other things. So you know what? I am talking about other things this morning. But, you guys are so right. That would be completely crazy. But anyhow, look, guys, this is real. The markup starts today. Markups when they start playing with the bills and what they're going to get through, what's not going to get through, etc. And what they did is that 3 committees at the same time will be discussing all these bills. Remember earlier on when a whole lot of our MAGA brothers and sisters call and tell us, why not give the president a chance to see what he's going to do and all of that? And we constantly try to say, we know what he's going to do. We understand the process. And the new budget makes that quite clear. There are a few things on the new budget to fool you, but my God, it is trickled down on steroids. And folks, let me give you and this is going to be about a 17-minute video that I got to give you here that I did an interview with the exec director of Social Security Works. It's a must listen to. Here we go. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right on Egberto
Off the Record. Thank you guys for chiming in. Thank you guys for being here. Today, we're honored once again, to have Alex Lawson. Alex Lawson is the Executive Director of Social Security Works, the convening member of the Strengthened Social Security Coalition, and a coalition made up of over 340 national and state organizations representing over 50 million Americans. As you guys know, today, Donald Trump released an executive order that seems to be populist in nature with regards to drug pricing. We need to simply let Americans know right off the bat that this is just one of the other scams that this president is known for. Alex Lawson, Director Alex Lawson, welcome to Politics Done Right on Egberto Off the Record. How are you doing today?
Great, Egberto. Always wonderful to join you. And yeah, it's a busy week.
Why is it a busy week? I mean, you mentioned that earlier before we started talking, and realized that it's going to be all coming down quickly, and we have to have our eyes open for what's about to be unleashed.
Yeah, so it's important for everybody to understand the main event is tomorrow. Tomorrow, the Republicans have to advance their legislative agenda, which is done by Congress. This is the hard stuff. And this is where this is their proposal. They're going to steal 13.7 million people's healthcare, steal it so that they can give trillions of dollars in tax handouts to billionaires. That's what they're going to do tomorrow. Now, remember, you know this, your listeners know this. They've spent the whole time being like, well, we're definitely not going to cut Medicaid. We're not going to, they're just lying about their plans. Tomorrow, they have to sign on the dotted line, right? Yes, they're destroying Medicaid. Yes, that's how they're giving these tax handouts to billionaires. This is deeply unpopular stuff. But and that's not it. They also destroy SNAP. You're coming after the ACA. It's enormous. But all of it comes down to stealing our healthcare, our money, and giving it to billionaires. So they know that that's going to be deeply unpopular. So they put all three committee hearings on top of each other to just try to confuse the story or minimize the story so people don't actually know what's going on. And now you get to, why did Donald Trump roll out his executive order on drug prices? Donald Trump's numbers are they're underground. They're so bad on cost of living. And high drug prices are a disaster. Don't ever let any politics, get in the way of the clear-eyed understanding that high drug prices are a disaster for the American people. I moved to Washington, D.C. Over a decade ago to take on high drug prices. I spend every day fighting pharma. This is a real fight. So Donald Trump understands that it's super popular to take on pharma. The problem is Republicans love pharma, right? I mean, Joe Biden took on pharma and won. When he took office, he took on pharma and won. Medicare drug price negotiation. You know how many Republicans voted for that? Zero. You know what pharma hates? Medicare drug price negotiation. The Republicans right now are trying to advance a bill to weaken Medicare drug price negotiations. So Donald Trump is announcing an executive order that, I'm all for. Anyone who says they want to lower drug prices, I'm not going to say that's a bad goal. I'm going to say it's hard to do. And the executive order, you dig into what Donald Trump is actually saying he's going to do, it's not big enough. It's not actually going to lower people's drug prices. It's mainly hand waving. Just to dig into the policy briefly, it's the weakest form of international reference pricing, which is something that I spent years international reference pricing, getting into the conversation. We like international reference pricing. It says pharmaceutical corporations shouldn't be able to charge us in the U.S. way more, double, 4 times as much as they charge in other countries. We got a bill that Senators Merkley and Sanders are reintroducing on Wednesday that's real, a real international reference pricing bill. If Republicans want to make this happen, that's what you have to do. The executive order is just hand waving, smoke and mirrors, because Trump's numbers are subterranean right now. So he's got tariffs. The news on tariffs and this EO are all a big PR push to try to win this week with positive messaging, because tomorrow they're going to try to like hand wave away that they're stealing almost 14 million people's healthcare to give tax handouts to billionaires. So I know it's complicated, but it really comes down to this. The Republicans are not fighting to lower people's drug prices. They're just not, right? That Donald Trump understands the politics of it, but the Republicans are not fighting to lower drug prices for the American people. It's not one of their priorities. Their priorities is giving tax handouts to billionaires, and they're going to take our healthcare to do that.
The executive order is titled Delivering Most Favored Nation Prescription Drug Pricing to American Patients. A tenet of this executive order's claims that Americans are subsidizing foreign companies, given that foreign companies pay quite a bit less for our drugs than we do. Here is the thing. The foreign companies, governments fight the drug companies to get the better deal. The drug companies still make a hell of a profit, even at the pricing they give to foreign companies. Donald Trump trying to attach or equate we subsidizing foreign country is a false statement. Now, one of the things that he said during the press conference was kind of ironic because he tied tariffs along with this drug reduction bill by claiming, check out what's going to happen, guys. When we add up the money that we have for the tariffs and the savings we're going to have on these drugs, it's going to make it much easier. I'm paraphrasing. It'll make it much easier for us to give the tax cut. Of course, as Alex pointed out, he means the tax giveaway to the wealthy folks. Explain a little bit about how that ties into the ability for him to give bigger tax cuts to these wealthy guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of what Donald Trump is doing is really bully pulpit stuff. Because at the end of the day, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, is the scorekeeper on the Hill, and so on the Hill, the savings that you need have to be legislative, right? It can't be from anything other than cuts. That's why we know what the cuts are now to healthcare. 13.7 million people losing their healthcare. That's from CBO. So what Donald Trump is talking about is softer. It's sort of like PR or also the business press. And now, Egberto, this goes a little bit deep, but I know we can follow it.
We have a great listenership. These folks understand things.
So this is all about, you watch financial press, and what they talk about is bond yields. They talk about U.S. Treasury bond yields. And the underlying thing is, if you give giant tax handouts to billionaires, which Wall Street and the financial press are desperate for, they say, you have to give us trillions of dollars. Otherwise, we won't be able to buy our golden yachts. But they do say, if you don't pair that with actual cuts, then the bond market is going to punish U.S. Treasury bills and drive yields up. And this is actually the thing that spooked Donald Trump on the tariffs, right? It was the bond market that actually went haywire and started signaling that people were losing faith in U.S. Treasury bills. And if that happens, the whole house of cards comes down, the whole kit and caboodle. So what Donald Trump is saying is, I'm going to make sure that the bond yields don't go haywire. And on the legislative side, that means literally cutting people's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They say getting entitlement spending under control. That's Wall Street speak for stealing our earned benefits. That's what's going on. So we have to really focus in on what is being proposed in the reconciliation bill on the Hill, and understand that what Donald Trump is doing is mainly PR efforts outside of that to build momentum for what's on the Hill, because what they're trying to do on the Hill is really hard for them to pull off. It's deeply unpopular amongst both the moderates and the hard right. The reconciliation bill that's being proposed, the moderates are like, we're going to lose our jobs because we will steal healthcare from more people than we won our elections by. Representative Miller Meeks from Iowa, she won her election by 800 votes, or somewhere right around 800 votes. If this goes through, something like 67,000 people in her district lose their of her constituents.
Right.
Right. So they'll definitely lose their job if they get this through. On the other side of the Republican caucus, you have, these arsonists who actually drive the party who are saying, we need to hurt more people. We need to just totally destroy everything. And this is getting pretty close to totally destroying everything, but nothing is enough for the arsonists. So Speaker Johnson has a really hard balancing act to pull off to get all those votes. And you know what doesn't help him get the votes? Donald Trump's poll numbers being subterranean, right? When he's polling in the 30s and 40s on his handling of the economy, the thing that got him elected, he's way underwater on. He's underwater on cost of living, handling the economy, Social Security. These are the three top priorities, according to recent public opinion polling, and he's underwater on all of them. So he's just trying to deal with that, right? The executive order on drug prices, it's not going to actually lower people's drug prices. I am good with Republicans saying drug prices are too high, though, Egberto. I'm not going to fight them on that. I'm like, I want more of them to say it. In the House, Republicans will not say that because they need pharma dollars. But it's the executive order is to try to take care of his sagging poll numbers on cost of living, that's drug prices, and the economy, that's the tariff announcement with China agreed over the weekend. That is just a 90-day pause, right? The trade deals take way longer than 90 days. And so this is, again, it's all about creating a narrative going into tomorrow that they're going to try to pull out for the rest of the week. And we have to be truth tellers and be like, don't fall for it. You have to keep your eye on the actual scorekeeper here. The Congressional Budget Office says, it's not about what Donald Trump said this morning. The Congressional Budget Office says 13.7 million people lose their health care to give trillions of dollars in tax handouts to billionaires. That's what's going on.
Well, what is so important, and I want to go a bit off topic because this is an extraordinarily important when you mentioned about bonds. I want folks to understand that before Trump came into office, the Treasury bonds were selling at about 3-point-something%. We're all the way up to 4-point-something% without making any changes to the budget at all, without any tax cuts or anything already. We are at 4-point-something% on the bonds. What that means is that we have increased our deficit spending for the next fiscal year by billions of dollars before we even start trying to cut taxes. What Alex is talking about there is more important than most understand. So yes, this is window dressing. This is smoke and mirrors from Donald Trump, but it's something that we have to be aware of, that if something happens this week where these guys come out and say that they have some deal with us, knowing that this is a fraud, think about what's going to happen to the bond going forward. Okay, give me a closer as far as what America should be doing, what our constituency or listeners should be doing in the next few hours, in the next few days, because of how substantive this week is going to be with regards to building that budget, if you will.
The key is hands off Social Security, hands off Medicaid, hands off SNAP, hands off Meals on Wheels. These are things, programs, systems that we've built, that we've earned. And the Republicans are trying to steal them from us to give tax handouts to billionaires. So we need to make as much noise as possible. There's a lot of stuff happening in Washington, D.C., but we also, Egberto, we've spoken about it. We say, get local. Go to your local Social Security office. Get your friends. Put a note, send a note to us at socialsecurityworks.org. I'm A. Lawson at socialsecurityworks.org. We'll help you find people to in your location. Go to a Social Security office. Get some signs. Hands off Social Security. Go to a local hospital. We haven't even gotten into it, but especially if you live in a rural or urban area, if this goes through, your hospitals are done. They're gone. especially the rural hospitals, they're closing left and right now. So hands off Medicare, go to your local hospital, call the news and politicians, especially if you live in one of these marginal Republican districts. Get your elected official on the record. What are you going to do to protect our hospital? What are you going to do to protect our Social Security office? Educate people about the consequences of what's going on. And of course, call your members of Congress. And for this, the reconciliation is both the House and the Senate. And we just need to make as much noise as possible. It's the House right now, but it'll have to go over to the Senate. They have disagreements in each house. So in the House, they don't agree as a party. In the Senate, they don't agree as a party. And then the two houses, Senate and the House, don't agree with each other. So we just got to get in there and talk to all of the moderates, everybody, and say, look, if you vote to steal our healthcare, we're going to vote to get you out of office, right? Like, just educate people as to what our plans are if they actually go through with stealing, and really think about what that means. Almost 14 million people's healthcare. What are they supposed to do? Die? Yes, that's the plan for them. There is no other plan. When you take a person's healthcare away, and you're talking about the most vulnerable in our society, the oldest of the old, people with disabilities, people in nursing homes. And there's worse stuff on nursing homes. They're going to lower the amount of staff in nursing homes at the same time they cut funding. They'll turn nursing homes into death traps. Your family members will not be safe at all in a nursing home. That's what's at stake here. So hands off Medicaid, hands off Meals on Wheels, hands off Social Security, and say that as loud as possible in as many venues as possible.
Folks, stay tuned to Egberto Off the Record on Politics Done Right. We've been covering these issues, including the closure of rural hospitals and why we've gotten professionals to speak about that as well. And we are also locally here in Kingwood and throughout Texas. We're discussing that and having symposiums, etc., for people to find out about this. So folks are on the ball. We need all of those that are listening to us to be on the ball, as well as sharing all this information. Alex Lawson, who is, again, the Director of Social Security, the Executive Director of Social Security Works, thank you so kindly for having appeared on Politics Done Right on this short notice. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, the evil within this bill that's coming out, we're going to talk. I wasn't going to talk about the bill specific, but I've got to. Some of the key points got released earlier, and I want to cover some of that. Welcome aboard, Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. Eric Hayes from Atascocita. A ton on Substack from Claudette Newhill, Michael Gale, Cunis, Paul McCall, said Jensen, Jen B, Todai, Own Self, Be True, Deborah Havlin, John. Too many to call out, but love you guys. We'll talk. We're listening here. John's on the line. John, sorry for keeping you waiting this long, but trying to get a whole lot out. Today's a very important day in Congress. Talk to me. John, line numero 1.
I agree with you. It's very important. But everything you guys just talked about, this gentleman talked about, isn't in the headlines around the world or in the United States, is it? I'm looking at headlines right now. They don't say what he just told me. And so there is, and I think you guys hit on the point yourselves when it started, is again, I'm gonna stay on the media. They're failing us. That should be in the headlines. What you guys are talking about is the most important thing to a guy like me, 75 years old, disabled, retired. It's important to me, and it's important to a lot of the people that I talk to that are my age, that are retiring or have retired. And that's not in the headlines. And so, again, I'm going to say the media. And what did you guys talk economics yesterday? I didn't call in because I have nothing to say about economics, because I think the whole Trump-China fiasco is just that, along with the airplane. It's a distraction. It's what Kevin Newsom said a few weeks ago that he was criticized by Democrats for. Don't fall for it. Now, we don't have any headlines about immigration, even though this weekend I was appalled by watching people be arrested on their own streets, the neighbors coming out trying to protect them, and the local cops show up and warn the people. They threaten the people in their own neighborhood about illegal assembly. You can't stand in your own street and talk to your neighbors? How is that illegal assembly? But that's not in the headlines. And I don't see the school voucher thing, which is basically a reintroduction of segregation. It is just that. And it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. And I got 2 teachers in my family. And so I think, Egberto, that the media is failing us. Because what you guys are talking about right now is most important to the average American. And it's not in the headline.
John, let me just say, let me say this as far as the media is concerned. The people who keep the traditional mainstream media alive are the same people who this bill is really protecting. The corporate structure, Exxon, ADM, all these guys are the funders, are the ones who fund the mainstream media. Do you think this is a humongous tax reduction for corporate America? Like it's on steroids. People don't get it. And if you think the mainstream media is going to come out and tell you that the trick that they're doing today, and listen to this, folks, important. The trick that they are doing today for nerds like me who will flip on C-SPAN to watch these different hearings, right? What they're doing is they're having all the hearings at the same time. They think you're not going to watch 3 hearings at the same time. They don't know. I got equipment here. I'm going to have the 3 of them up at the same time. And as my daughter would tell you, where they're listening, I can listen to 3, 4 things at the same time. They are doing this to keep people confused. They're doing this to make sure they can push this thing through. And by the time, look, there are several tricks being done here. It wasn't an accident that Donald Trump came out with this drug assertion yesterday, because if it were to become law, it will seem to make you believe when they start to score Medicaid by the CBO that they can cut Medicaid by X amount of dollars. By him having that press conference yesterday and that executive order, he told, I have another video that I'm not going to play. We don't have the time. That actually he's telling the Speaker of the House and the leader of the Senate, he's telling them, hey, remember, you have to score my tariffs and my drug bill, my drug executive order when you're scoring the bill. What that does is it gives them the false belief that they can cut more because there's this money coming in that won't really be coming in, because they're not going to drop those drug prices based on what the word. Read the EO, read the executive order. I read the entire executive order. There is no mandate for any company to cut drug prices. None. It is a suggestion. Read the executive order yourself. Remember, whenever I speak, I never ask people to just believe what I'm saying at face value. Fact check me. Read the executive order. Go ahead, John.
I got re-engaged in this news, and so all weekend I watched the news, and I don't see a headline Monday morning about habeas corpus being attacked. So we're going to get rid of it if we let Stephen Miller run the show. And people don't realize habeas corpus is the Constitution.
Yeah.
It is the Constitution, literally. And understand that. So when you attack habeas corpus, you're attacking me personally, saying I'm no longer a free American.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, look, I want to just say this to folks. John, I need to go to Bruce, and then I need to get some more talking in here with respect to the bill. So thank you so kindly for calling, John. Bruce, come on in before I get to the actual bill. Come on in, Bill. Bruce.
Good morning. I'll try to make this brief. Johnny, I appreciate the call he made because he's so dead on about the media. The only tiny tidbit I heard was that even Josh Hawley said messing with Medicaid might be political suicide. And you're so right about the distractions. They are doing shiny object over here while they stab you in the back over there. morally bankrupt. Trump is so morally bankrupt. He makes the English Calopegia and Lily Phillips look like a nun. I'm done.
Thank you so kindly, Bruce. Look, when I talk about when I talk, thank you, Uju. Welcome aboard, Uju, Elizabeth, Jeff Wynn, John A, Deborah J, and I'm reading your comments. Look, when we talk about distraction, right? I want you guys to think about the Qatar Air 747. Watch Morning Joe and all these others talking about emoluments clause and all these different things. While today they're marking up the bill. They are marking up the largest takeaway of healthcare. They are marking up the largest tax giveaway. They are marking up. Look, Donald Trump says he's applying tariffs because he wants to reshore. He wants to bring back businesses onshore, back to the United States. I want you to listen to what I'm going to say right now about the bill. Some of it is summarized in Common Dreams. Yet again, another truth teller that doesn't get the coverage it should. House Democrats and civil society groups led condemnation of legislation introduced Monday by congressional Republicans and backed by President Donald Trump that one lawmaker said is about tax breaks for billionaires and kickbacks to corporate donors at the expense of working class. The 389-page bill includes trillions of dollars in tax cuts that would disproportionately benefit the ultra wealthy and corporations, largely by extending Trump's first term reduction in tax, mainly for top earners, derided as the GOP tax scam. The proposal also broadens the estate tax exemption. Again, rich people broadens the estate tax exemption, meaning people that didn't work for anything earn, and they can keep more of that when relatives die. Remember? That is how you get the mathematical exponential growth of wealth. Think about that. The mathematical exponential growth of wealth, if you do not tax estate transfers, that's a exponential growth, and we can go over that another time. But that is one of the big things in the bill, estate tax exemption for the super rich, and makes permanent a massive tax break. Listen to this. A massive tax break for offshore corporate profits. If you have a massive tax break for offshore corporate profits, why the hell would you bring back your business on the American shores? Yet you're telling the American people we are instituting tariffs so that you American people would start building your factories back in the United States. But guess what? If you keep your factories overseas, the profits you make overseas get a tax break. The profits you make in the United States are taxed. Why the hell would you come back to the United States? It's exactly as I told you before. The tariffs are there to bill the poor, the working class, and the middle class to pay for the tax cuts. So it's a sales tax on every import. And with that import and those taxes that we collect from you Americans, we can give the rich people a tax cut. The math is absolute. But they're not talking about this in mainstream media because they need to keep you uninformed, ignorant, and dumb. This is the time that you have got to remind them that you have gray matter between those two ears, that you're not easily fooled when presented with the information that is verifiable, that you can fact check, and that you can look up on your own. Don't listen to Politics Done Right telling you this stuff and just saying it's the way it is. If you have faith now that for those of you who've listened to us for decades, you know we are we make sure to do our homework. But for those just coming across and say that can't be right, please, I welcome the fact check because you need to know this stuff. I beg that you know this stuff because all of you knowing this stuff protects all of us from what is about to happen if we don't engage now. All right, continuing. The proposal would reduce government revenue by trillions of dollars and swell the national debt, currently a staggering 36.2 trillion, or the equivalent of 127% of U.S. gross domestic product, and cost over $5 trillion. We are over 100% of our domestic gross product. That is danger zone. If we didn't have what's known as sovereign currency, meaning we print our own money, our money is backed by the faith people have in the United States, we would be moving our money in wheelbarrows by now. 127% of the gross domestic product is our current debt. That is crazy. And a large percentage of that debt came to be from Trump's first term, his tax cuts in the first term, and will grow further by his tax cuts this term. Tax cuts that are not needed by the wealthy. In fact, the wealthy haven't raised all that money on the backs of all of you, should be paying much higher taxes, not only on their income, because they don't make a lot of income. So when people say you can't make enough income from taxing the rich, they're right because of how income is defined. But if you remind them that, guess what? Capital gains, presumed capital gains is income, right? Let me give you a dirty little secret. You only pay taxes on capital gains, meaning if you sell your stocks and collect money from your stocks and that stock appreciated in price, the difference between what you bought the stocks for and what it's worth is your capital gains. That capital gains is taxed, right? But it's taxed at a much lower rate than the person who goes out there and work every day. So rich people get a tax break whenever they sell their stocks and make a profit. But let me tell you what rich people do. They don't sell their stocks. What they do is they go to an insurance company, they go to a bank, and they say, I would like to borrow money on the value of my stock. The bank holds that stock as collateral to the loan they give you, and you never pay that loan back. And guess what? You don't pay taxes on loans. So therefore, you have billions that you can take out as loans and never once pay a tax. So they're telling you, if your stock appreciates but you don't sell the stock, you don't pay any wealth tax, you don't pay any income tax on that. But at the same time, you can spend that money by taking out a loan from a bank backed by that stock, and that way you never ever have to pay anything on that. Folks, the type of machinations that occur for the rich, and all our MAGA brothers and sisters and all our neoliberal Democrats that are there supporting this farce, they're doing it on your backs. Because they think you don't have a lot upstairs. When I tell you that the whole economic system is a fraud, and people, they get on me, you're anti-capitalist, you're anti-this. No, I'm not. I am just fair-minded. The people who work every day, you guys, when I drive down the street and I see folks on the bus stop, when I go onto the freeways and I see people humming to work every day, I see that tradesperson cleaning up and plumbing and doing their electrical work. You are the ones who make America work. And these buffoons that are out there on your backs never lift the hands up to do physical work, never do anything. Just go to business school, figure out how to best rip you off. Guys, the country is still yours. The country is still yours. If you want to keep it, you got to earn it. And you have to go out there and do your job, folk. You got to let these guys know that if certain, I can't say it this way. Let me say it in a way that I can say. If you believe that this bill is bad for you, it is imperative that you go to the people who you have elected and tell them that this bill will do you harm, because it will. Let's go to Johnny, line number 1.
Ditto, Egberto. Remember a long time ago when Rush Limbaugh was around, all his right-wing male callers would say, ditto, Rush, ditto. Well, when I
remember that.
It's the truth. Egberto is speaking the truth. Here's another truth that we should also remind people of. The other burden that's on the shoulders of the American working class, the American people broadly, is when we pass these infrastructure bills. You have said it over and over again, so it bears repeating. The other burden is we don't have a progressive income tax code right now like we had in the early 1950s. So the U.S. Treasury is empty, practically speaking. And when that happens, guess what? When Joe Biden or George Bush, they want to pass a infrastructure package, guess how we pay for that? We don't pay as we go, like Republicans like to pretend that they believe in. No. We have to take loans out from bankers in Manhattan or China and pay it back with interest, paying monies back that we rightfully have, which should be ours, because the American working class, they see their authority and their power away at the paycheck when they clock out. They get minimum paychecks, and that money goes into the offshore bank accounts of these morbidly rich corporate national oligarchs. They have money that they don't deserve to have. That's why that's another big burden. That's another reason why we have this so-called national debt, because we don't pay as we go.
Johnny, I want to put out 2 very important facts. Because Democrats in general doesn't have they don't feel that somehow they can't tax. They are more fiscally responsible than Republicans. If you take a look at the charts, there's absolutely no doubt. I mean, like I tell people, just fact check me. But the economy has always done better under Democratic leadership. And again, the debt has always done better under Democratic leadership. You can look in you just do the numbers. And again, you don't listen to me. Do the numbers and you'll find that out. The second thing about it is, Donald Trump didn't just cave to the Chinese because he had to. The Chinese are holding about, I think it's $800 and something billion. It's just $1 billion in treasuries. And if they unload those treasuries, that 4.5% that you heard me talk to Alex about for the bond pricing would zoom to 6%. And if that zoomed to 6% without spending another penny for the American people, our budget deficit would zoom. All of these things are things that are not on TV for Americans to understand the irresponsibility of what's being done right now in Congress. And I hope they will do the work. Johnny, I got to go because I have some more callers. But thank you very much for your call, my brother. All right.
Thank you for your part A, and I gladly provided part B.
Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye.
Peace. All right, let's go to Bobby. Come on in, Bobby.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
I was listening to what you had said earlier about gains and income tax. And as far as I understood, like when Congress or whatever originally ratified the income tax, like they did in the middle of the night, and it was only supposed to originally be on gains. Like you said, if you bought a stock, you made profit, and you were supposed to pay tax on the profit that you made. However, like when we're actually going to work, there's no gain there. We're trading our hourly work for, the money. There's no gain there. It's an even trade. So
exactly.
Even taxing it's not even fair at all. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And what you said, I'm glad that you said that, right? But that is that just shows you the evil within the system, right? You go out there and you exchange your labor. You work hard and they give you a pay for that. You are going to pay up to 37% of that in taxes. However, if you decide to just go ahead and buy a stock, that stock appreciates, you pay less than that for the appreciation of that stock. But it even gets better. If you have that stock, Bobby, right? Let's say you have $100,000 in stock, and for some great reason it doubles into into $200,000, and you go to the bank and you take out $100,000 loan. That is and you go spend that money for $100,000. You don't have to pay that extra tax on that $100,000 gain at all. The bank is holding that as collateral, and if you default, the bank just takes your stock. Okay. Now, people are going to say, yeah, but then you'll have to pay the tax on the stock. Well, the thing about it is you're not going to bankrupt while you're alive. So, I mean, the thing about it is the tricks that the wealthy has that we have given them, they don't have it. We have written it into the law so that they can hold on to the money that they've gotten off of our backs. And I repeat, people don't like when I say that they make the money off of our backs, but that's exactly how they do it. You are the ones who go out there and work, and somebody profits from that. Anything else, Bobby, real quick?
No, I think that's it. But I think you're right. There are a lot of times like they'll want to pass, there'll be a bill or something that people really want to pass, and then they'll attach something like, to it, saying, okay, well, we will vote for this, and then there's something attached to it, that people really don't want.
Exactly. Anyway. Thank you, brother. Cecilia Voss in the chat says, go to ocasio-cortez.com/save Medicaid. AOC has put clear steps on who and how to call representatives. Elizabeth says, California under Democratic leadership for more than a decade. Now it's the world's fourth largest economy. Look, it's a fact. We don't have to argue about these issues. These are facts. Let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, you're a prime example of why Venezuela is such a failure. You can move to Venezuela if you don't like the American economic system.
Brian, what did I say that was wrong? Brian, don't just don't make a comment without backing it up. What did I say that was wrong?
You always say working off the backs of others. How does that work so well in Venezuela? What is their inflation rate right now today? Sir, I'm not talking about Venezuela. I'm talking about the United States of America. What did I say that is incorrect? What did I say, sir, that was incorrect? You always say working off the backs of others. You are my question to you is that true or not? If I give you the numbers, it is not true. What do you do for a living, sir? What do you do for a living? I told you that. I work in concrete refinishing. There you go. And do you own the business or don't you own the business? Do you think I care about how I get my paycheck? And hold on a second. And that's a problem. I don't care how much money I get it. Sir, I get it. You don't mind being willfully ignorant because, sir, if anybody tells me I don't care, that says it all. You don't care. You just know that you get X amount of dollars and you don't care about anything else, even if corruption is destroying the country from within. Your statement is clear. You don't care. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you, Brian. You don't care. You said it. You don't care. You don't care. And that's the issue, folks. That is, they want us to be like Brian. Brian is not a bad guy. Brian is just satisfied to be willfully ignorant. Okay. And there are people that way. And that is not, I am not trying to be disrespectful. I am not trying to be hurtful. I am just trying to be factual. He said it all. He gets his check and that's all he knows. He doesn't care. He gets his check and that is all he knows. And that is what they hope for us, that as they're doing their machinations behind the scenes, you don't know. But at the same time that he's willfully ignorant, at the same time that he doesn't care, he does believe when they talk about Venezuela as a straw country. They do believe in Cuba when they use Cuba as a straw country, not realizing that that Cuba is Cuba and Venezuela is Venezuela for what we have done. Venezuela is sitting on the largest reserves of oil in the world.
more than the United States, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Canada. They are the largest, sitting on the largest pool of oil. And because they decided that that was going to be a resource for the entire country, it could not be allowed to occur. You're not going to hear that in our news here. It was not allowed to occur. And the reason it could not occur is, think about Americans thinking, wait a minute, all those oil fields on public lands around the country, that oil should belong to all Americans. Instead, it belongs to a few oil companies and investors in that oil company. Boy, are we suckers. Go ahead, Gil, line number 1.
I have an academic question. How did you obtain the copy or access the executive order contents? Did you do that online?
Oh, yeah. You can go to the whitehouse.gov. Look, Donald Trump is proud of putting his lies out. Just go to whitehouse.gov, and on the first page, click on executive orders, and you can find the executive order directly on online. Okay, and I read the entire executive.
Okay,
go ahead.
Great. I'll keep that in mind. I have one more general question here.
Yes.
Constitutionally speaking, where do we draw the fine line between a subversive invasion in our own country versus an outside invasion of our country, to where the government can enact the anti-sedition clause of our Constitution?
I am so glad you asked that, right? The reality is, the truth of the matter is, it is vague enough. It is vague enough that a president can declare that whenever there seems to be any kind of action that harms people in the streets, etc. But here's the magic, brother. The magic is that the president can declare it, and the people, represented by we the people, the Congress, can override that. The problem we have right now is we have a president with a Congress that is with the Republican side of the Congress that is fearful to address him, even as he brings the country to its knees. And that is dangerous, that only the people can solve. And the people can only solve that in 2026. Sorry to say that, but that is where we're at.
Okay,
you follow?
Then hypothetically, let's say exactly. So then let's say hypothetically, he executes said military action, or at least proposes it in legislation, and then the Congress overrides the bill, but he executes the invasion anyway. Let
me just tell you where what I believe, what I hope, and what I don't like to hope, because I don't like to lose control. But this is what I hope. I think the military is not made up of a bunch of zombies, right? The military is made up of people that are scattered all throughout this country. People that were born in North Dakota are serving in Miami. People that were born in Texas are serving in California, etc. I don't think the American military will go up. They would know that they would have crossed the line, and I don't think they will act. And I think the reason he's trying to change out the top brass as he does all the while is that he's trying to do something for the 2026 election, before the 2026 election, to declare martial law. And that's why he's dumping all of the current leadership in the military. But I don't believe, even with dumping the top tier of the military, I don't think the generals underneath, the ones that he has in control, will actually execute the order. I think we'll have a mutiny. I honestly think we'll have a mutiny then. And then that mutiny, I believe they all will be pardoned by the subsequent president. That's my theory. That's my hope. I still think Americans have the values that they believe America represents. Okay, I gotta go, Gil. Anything else real quick?
That's it. I just may. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, brother. Okay, let's go to Bobby. Bobby, real quick, 30 seconds.
Hey, I just had a few quick thoughts. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in my opinion, the world has enough of abundance for everyone's needs, but not enough to satisfy everyone's greed. And I think that's the problem. The next thing is like there's no poor third world countries. There's poor third world peoples with rich governments, probably very high on resources. And locally, last year they built that land bridge over Memorial at the park. I think it's beautiful. I'm not right. Yet when you look at that, we still have thousands of rape kits, some with DNA matches that they know who did these things, but they don't have the police resources to go get these people. Like, how are we as a society thinking, oh, these bridges are beautiful? Meanwhile, there's thousands of women who've been raped, and we could go find who they are, but we'd rather build a pretty bridge. Like, everything's messed up in my
you nailed it. You have to change the priorities. You healed that right. Okay, Bard, thank you very much, Bobby. Bard, you got 30 seconds.
Yes, sir. I fact-checked you, and you're lying.
Please,
you said
go
we
ahead.
Have a sovereign currency that the whole world trusts, that we can print our own money, and it's worth something. That's a lie, sir.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for at least saying that out. But actually, sir, you're rubbish, sir. Bard, we can't. You're speaking rubbish. That's rubbish. That is rubbish. That is rubbish. Go ahead, cut that line. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. We have to understand. We do have sovereign currency by definition. Look it up. I don't know what Bart is reading, some right wing nut stuff. I mean, there's a lot of that out there. Let me pass it to the studio real quick.
Oh, nothing here, Egberto. Jack, you got anything? Jack says no.
All right, folks, we got to get out of here. But look, thank you all for listening. Love you all. And I mean that from the depths of my heart. Remember that the rest of the program, 3 other videos are there as well, is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can email me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.